Well, hello, and thanks for watching another episode of News of the Pews, where you can count on unapologetic 2A advocacy. Gun rights are human rights. And if you had to come up with an antonym for rights, I think subjugation would be right at the top of the list. The urge to impose your will on other human beings is, I think, one of man's basest desires. Arguably, there are only two sins: defying or rejecting God himself, and attempting to impose your will on other people. Robbery, lying, adultery, the big M, they all have at their root the attempt to control others. I believe that it is fundamentally evil to attempt to subvert another person's free will, which is why I believe the people who sit on HOA boards are some of the most depraved, useless degenerates this planet has to offer. Not long ago, I told you about a Florida HOA that really stepped in it by banning guns in common areas because Attorney General James Uthmire wrote them an open letter describing how he's going to launch an evergreen container ship sideways in the ass if they insisted on this route. Now, a South Carolina HOA is trying the same damn thing.
Retard.
Now, the legal situation in South Carolina is a little different. Florida has some better protections, but the Karens don't have carte blanche to do whatever their tiny frozen hearts desire either. I know a lot of you guys are hardline private property guys, but property rights are not unlimited. You cannot sell human beings or torture puppies just because you're on private land, and your authority to dictate how your property is used diminishes even further when you open it to the public. You can open your home to white people only, but you can't do that with your business. You cannot exclude Hindus or people with walkers. You have no right to tell people not to wear a cross or carry an inhaler. So these HOA Karens, but I repeat myself, are on pretty shaky legal ground. First off, they don't have any authority to restrict behavior beyond what's written in the CNRs, and vague language about safety isn't gonna cut it. Now, their property rights might let them get away with banning guns inside a clubhouse or other structure, but that gets a lot more tenuous when they try to tell people what they can do on the sidewalk in front of their own home, and that's the real key here. These people aren't just customers who wandered in off the street. This private property is partly their property, which they pay for the use of. And I don't think their rights disappear just because some gaggle of Karens says so. That's called the tyranny of the majority, and I don't believe human rights evaporate just because a group of people got together and agreed to violate my rights. The individual is the smallest minority, and only individuals have rights. But hey, it would be impossible for me to produce quality 2A propaganda without you. That's right. I don't have any sponsors, so I literally could not make this content without your generous support. So if you are in a comfortable place in life, please consider supporting this channel by purchasing one of these sick t-shirts for just $15. Or maybe one of these rad stickers, mugs, or magnets is more your speed. But whether you buy merch or donate directly down there at the links in the doobly-doo, and of course right here, your help is what keeps this thing going, and I am incredibly grateful for your support. But if you're not in a comfortable place, please don't feel pressured. You don't owe anyone else a thing. Just enjoy this 2A propaganda at the price of free 99 and continue to pray for us. If I say the word FOPA, the old guys in the audience are gonna groan, the young guys will go, huh, Minnesotans nod, the Greeks take a shot, but the Firearms Owners Protection Act was backed by the NRA, passed by Congress in 1986, and signed into law by Ronald Reagan. As is their custom, Congress named the Firearms Owners Protection Act in direct opposition to what the bill actually does. What it's supposed to do is make it legal to travel through authoritarian police states with items which might be illegal there, so long as your final destination was a state where your gun was legal. It was supposed to rein in the ATF too. And to be fair, I guess it actually did to some extent, but that didn't stop them from, well, I'll whip that deceased equine some other day. But FOPA did actually allow for licensed dealers to also set up a table at a gun show. Obviously, they still had to do all the same paperwork they normally would. But FOPA also included the Hughes Amendment, which closed the NFA registry so no new machine guns could be added for private transfers. Thanks, Reagan. And the control freak states have mostly ignored the safe passage provisions of FOPA. they have claimed that any stop at all for gas, to sleep in a hotel, or even rest in your car means you are no longer just traveling through their state. In practice, they make no allowance for FOPA, and the more authoritarian states will arrest you for having, for example, a standard Glock 19. That is indeed bullshit, of course, but you will never guess who agrees with me. The ATF. The people who murdered Brian Malinowski in the dark of night in his own home just proposed amending Department of Justice regulations to clarify, for purposes of transporting firearms interstate, any activities that are reasonably necessary to transportation, such as staying overnight in temporary lodging, stopping for food, fuel, vehicle maintenance, and emergency or medical treatment, or transiting between modes of transportation. Reading between the lines, I think this kind of hints the DOJ might be getting ready to sue control freak states for enforcing their salty boy laws on people just passing through. What do you guys think? The DOJ has been cosplaying as white hats recently, so I think it's plausible. Another under 21 firearms ban just bit the dust. How many does this make now? Half a dozen or so? U.S. District Judge Beth Phillips found the ordinance in Jackson County, Missouri, which prevented an 18-year-old from buying a handgun from his uncle, is unconstitutional. You uns know I'm not a lawyer because I can count past 10 with my boots on, but it seems to me we are rapidly approaching a point of almost critical mass where pretty near any future case of this type is almost expected to sail through because there are so many cases to cite now. But things could turn out very differently in other districts and courts, and until the federal government and the several states change their laws, adults under 21 still won't be able to walk into a gun shop and buy a handgun anytime soon, as they ought to. Well, friends, rounds complete on 2, but before I get to your moment of completion, I just want to thank the William H. Crocker Foundation, Ozark Pilgrim, and Squirted Glizzies for making this all possible. I love you.